All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I think we're going to begin. I'm sure more people will be trickling in, but we have a really amazing presentation for you today. Today, we're going to be talking about navigating the licensing process for internationally trained nurses. All right, so who is here today? Myself, I'm Candice Fox, and I'm the Saskatchewan Outreach Consultant for Career Loans. As well, Don Morales, he's the Interim Program Head in the Orientation to Nursing in Canada for Internationally Educated Nurses program at Saskatchewan Polytechnic in Regina. I'm going to take myself off of video really quickly. We're going to play a video for you guys.
Are you a permanent resident, convention refugee, or Canadian citizen residing in Alberta or Saskatchewan? Are you an internationally trained individual in a regulated or non-regulated occupation? If you are not finding a job in your field, need career counseling, are unable to secure funds for training, or have been declined for traditional loans, then Career Loans can help. Career Loans is a virtual program that has partnered with HSBC Canada to provide financial counseling, career counseling, loans of up to $15,000, referrals to employment services, alternative career advice, and a guide to the accreditation process. Our expert counselors will coach you on your career goals and enable you to reach your full potential. If you would like to apply for a loan, our counselors will refer you to our financial partner, HSBC Canada. After assessing your financial situation, if you are eligible, your loan will get approved. You then have up to 4 years to pay off your loan at an affordable, locked-in interest rate. This way, you don't have to worry about increasing interest rates or being buried under rising debt. Throughout the process, our expert counselors will be available to guide, mentor, and ensure you are on the right path to achieving your career goals.
So today we have Don Morales with us. Don moved to Canada in 2010. He immigrated from the Philippines, where he began his nursing career. He has been a registered nurse in Saskatchewan since 2011 and received his Master's of Nursing from Athabasca University in January of this year. Don is currently the Interim Program Head of Critical Care Nursing in the Registered Nursing Bridging Program for Internationally Educated Nurses at SAS Polytechnic in Regina. His work portfolio is much more complex than that, and I'll let him talk a little bit more about that. Just from listening and talking to Don, he is very passionate about the work that he does. He is also an advocate for internationally educated nurses transitioning into the Canadian nursing practice, and we are just very lucky to have him with us today. So without further ado, Don, I'll pass over the virtual floor to you. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Candice, and thanks everyone for joining us today. And I really look forward to this session and be able to share a bit of info that really is significant in navigating through the licensing process for you and your family's future here in Canada. So allow me to share my screen right now. So do I have my full screen? Okay. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm coming in from Regina, and as Candice had mentioned, I have been working passionately and helping out with IENs. I think the best platform I have right now is being the interim program head for the Internationally Educated Nurses Bridging Program and assessment, and trying to really get internationally educated nurses, or IENs, transition into Canadian nursing practice. So I'd like to share with you a little bit of the licensing process and the arduous processes that comes with it, and what are the challenges and the barriers that most of the IENs or other healthcare professionals, internationally educated healthcare professionals, needs to jump through all the hoops in order for us to be transitioning into our primary profession, which is nursing or a doctor, or if that's the case may be. So allow me to share a little bit of my experience since coming to Canada in 2010 and where I'm currently working at, and a lot of the things I have experienced, and what are the ways that you can actually access, or what are these avenues that you can access in order for you to navigate this process in getting into your primary practice, especially for the nursing profession here in Canada. Okay. So the nurse, becoming a nurse in Canada is not as straightforward as I'd like to compare down south, which is in the U.S. I also have a license in the U.S. Actually, I have a current license in Texas, but practicing or trying to get to transitioning into nursing practice in the U.S. is pretty straightforward. In Canada, it involves a lot of processes, and it involves a lot of time, finances, and a lot of prayers and hard work. So the first that actually what happened in 2016 is the federal government and the health ministry. I've actually attended a conference in Ottawa, but there was a significant shift from the way internationally educated nurses, or IENs, is being assessed in Canada. Traditionally, it was pretty much done by licensing bodies or provincial regulatory bodies across Canada. So they each have their own specific ways in order for IENs to come to Canada and practice. So they adapted a pan-Canadian framework, and this is what resulted was the National Nursing Assessment Service, the NNAS. If you've heard that from your friends, from your colleagues, this is essentially an office that actually works for and try to assess your competencies and your documents from whichever country you come from, and try to compare them into what the entry-level Canadian competencies are. And there actually has a legal contract with an office in the US in Philadelphia. It's a CGFNS. So IENs, this is the first step of the many steps that you have to take in order for you to get your license in Canada eventually. So it takes about a year to process. Each IEN has to pay about $650 US. That's about 800 or 900 maybe in Canadian. So that first process involves finances. So if you want to practice as an LPN or as an RN or a registered psych nurses in Canada, this is the first step you need to take. And then of course, there will be two documents will have to come to and from you and from your country, from your licensing body in your own home country. You have to send these documents to the NNAS, and they will have to certify that this is legal and this is at par with the Canadian standards. And they will send your documents and the outcomes or the evaluation, they will send it to a provincial regulatory body of your choice. For example, if you're in Saskatchewan, they will send it over to the SRNA, which I'm currently licensed with. Or if you're in Alberta, they will send it to CARNA. And in BC, it's the BCCNP. And if you're in Ontario, it's a Canadian College of Nurses of Ontario. And this regulatory bodies determines if you're going to go for an assessment or if you're going to go straight and write your licensure exam, which is, by the way, probably most of you knows about it, is the NCLEX now. So once you get into a cohort where you need to do an assessment process, you have to be referred to an assessment process. You will have to pay for an assessment process. When you're in BC, you will have to pay for NCAS, or the Nursing Community Assessment Service. In Saskatchewan, what I do full-time prior to my intern program head role is I am an assessor. So I do a substantive equivalent assessment in Saskatchewan. Essentially, this is trying to determine if your knowledge and skills and the competency are at par with the Canadian standards. So what happens with the process, if you're in Alberta, you get through the IEN CAP. If you're in Ontario, you do a clinical competence assessment. Some of these are done via school, like in Saskatchewan, we do it through my employer, Saskatchewan Polytechnic. If you're in Ontario, you do it through Touchstone. And the same, similarly in Alberta through Touchstone. So it also involves some cost to it. In Saskatchewan, if you're referred for an assessment, you need to pay about a couple thousand or a 4,000 Canadian in order for you to be assessed. So what happens after assessment, you will be referred for bridging program. The bridging program, this is, you need to complete a set of courses or program from a school, from an accredited school in whichever province that you come from, and you have to complete this program in order for you to be eligible to write the licensure exam, the NCLEX, which is now the licensure process in Canada. So that, let me look at the second slide. However, I'd like to throw in a very challenging component in order for you to apply with the National Nursing Assessment Service. They also would require each applicant, each IEN, an English language requirement that you need to satisfy and pass the IELTS or CELBAN in order for you to proceed with your nursing, with your process. So everything involves cost, like there'd be $300 for IELTS, and CELBAN costs about $395. But there's actually more to it, right? Because you need to review, you need to apply, you need to go to a testing center, which may involve going out of town, right? Like Saskatchewan student, they need to go to Alberta or Winnipeg to write CELBAN. So there's always cost involved. It only adds up. So allow me also to look at the different challenges or the barriers that IENs face if you're going through the licensing process. So the English language, which actually expires every 2 years, I have had conversation with a lot of my coworkers who are still in the process of trying to get their nursing license in Canada, or in Saskatchewan in particular. They have to write their English exam for like 5 times. So that means it had expired for like, it's almost taking them like 5 or 10 years now, or maybe it's a long process that you need to redo it every 2 years because it expires every 2 years, and you need to access the testing centers within the province or outside your province. And if you factor in the COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of the testing centers have been closed. So that means you're pushing it further back. The 1-year process to 2-year process of getting your license from step 1 to the last step can take you a lot of time. And it also involves some layers of cost. So one of the things that I had trouble with, I struggled with when I came in 2010 was what would be my financial source. I came with some funds coming from the Philippines, but it wasn't really enough. I have to work full time. I have to work at Wendy's, and I have to work as a care aide. And while tending to other obligations, you send help your family back home. We send money back home, and so a lot of things factor in. So we need that kind of financial source. And one of the challenges and barriers that we have to deal with, if one of the hoops that we have to jump through, is how do we really integrate culturally? So this has been a source of problem for a lot of IENs or immigrants in general, and how to really be aware and be at par with the language nuances, the cultural competence, and how to deal with people, and how to really identify those cultural nuances of groups of people, and how to be effective and have that self-awareness for them to realize that we are in Canada. You can bring your own culture, but there is a dominant culture, especially in healthcare, that you really need to really observe competence that's actually expected if you are working in healthcare. Some of my friends who works in the healthcare settings reports microaggression, bullying, discrimination, and all the barriers, especially the language barriers as well. And one of the biggest thing I said to myself when I came in 2010, what are the groups that can actually support me? Especially, I need to have the right amount of information. I need to have those accurate information in order for me to move forward with my process, with wanting to get from point A to point B. So I found that I had limited access to support groups then. So I really have to ask people outside of Canada and just say, okay, I need financial support. You got to help me. You need to loan me some money. You need to borrow some money from me, and we'll just pay you back when the process is done. Fortunately, the whole process for me only took about 6 to 8 months then. And there was support from the provincial government of Saskatchewan. I was fortunate enough to come at a time when the economy of the province was still very sound. These days, there's lots of cutbacks and there's lots of challenges in trying to source out some financial help. So where do we see IENs? Where do you see your friends, your neighbors? You have been internationally healthcare professionals in their home country. Where do you see them mostly? Personally, I see them working as special care aides, continuing care aides, or health care aides, whatever the term that you use that in your province. You see them work in McDonald's, like myself. I have to work at Wendy's, flipping burgers. That's a decent job, but it's a back-breaking job. You see them working as essential workers in groceries. Some of them work in home care that actually doesn't pay much, like when you work with a health region. Some of them work as nannies. You see them working in the offices, working in housekeeping, dietary, and you see them all over the place, but their primary source of profession. There is a term, you probably heard about this, the term de-skilling, and this is a term which describes those immigrants or internationally educated healthcare professionals or even with other profession that actually just work with something that actually is not their primary profession. You heard about the stories about doctors in Ontario working as cab drivers. You see a lot of nurses maybe working in care call centers. So these are and we immigrants in general, we bring something to the table, to Canada. We have this cultural experiences. We bring this sense of family, this sense of community. We add up to the culture of Canada, and we make this country a better place in a way that we are there to help other people, and we would like to bring something to the table. However, if there's so many barriers and so many hoops to jump in order for us to even be sitting, seeing that table. So there is a lot of processes involved in order for you to even talk about a table. So I think this session or webinar today I think it's my way of thanking back all the people along the way in my journey, in my experience from step one, and then finally getting my license and finally working as a registered nurse. And then I have actually come full circle with my role, because now I'm working for IENs. I look after the programs that looks after IENs, and I really am passionate about getting my fellow IENs, my fellow immigrants, to really move and then get through the licensing process in Canada in order for you to have that opportunity and the chance for a good life in Canada, and for not just for yourself, but your family as well. But getting the right information, getting the right amount of help significantly should be your getting the right amount of help and getting the right amount of information is truly significant in order for you to move forward. So what are the sources of support? If I may, going back in 2010, it would be nice to have be somebody or a group or support group telling me to get those information from a website or provincial offices and stuff. So I found myself struggling with those. But thankfully, there are people who help me along the way. But if I have the liberty to recommend, I would have really agencies or provincial federal officers really looking after people like the IENs, like this what we're having now. Is one good thing for IENs to getting the right information, the right source of information. How about the language support? And I find this always with my coworkers in the health region, with my coworkers, even the IENs coming here, they always have they certainly need some amount of training for language and language support, and hopefully the federal government or the provincial regulatory bodies will consider not expiring those English language exams in 2 years, because that certainly would require finances. And then hopefully we will have the federal government say, okay, you don't need those exams repeated. You only need certification or some amount of seminars or webinars in order for you to move. Because when you're in Canada, you speak the language, you need to deal with people, you need to speak the language, and you learn and you get better at it. And we would like some community support, community or group support, including mental health, mentorship, and counseling. Right now, this is a good opportunity for us to have counseling in order for the career counseling. How about funding? This is such a big word there, right there. We should have access to local, provincial, and federal sources of funding. It's better, whatever amount of funding is better than no funding at all. So, like myself, I could say that I have gone through the transition, the arduous it may be, but I'm just one among the other successful IENs who now currently working and integrated into the Canadian nursing practice in Canada. I see people, IENs mostly in long-term care, home care. You see them in general wards. You see them in hemodialysis. My co-worker from back from the Philippines, and she's also the manager of the surgery, the operating room for the Regina General Hospital. I'm really proud of it. And now we're both working for the health region and helping a lot of people move forward. So you see them, IENs, you see IENs working in schools, in industries, and you see some IENs doing their masters, and then working in research, and then really trying to be part of the bigger group in Canada, which is really trying to practice safely and competently, not only because you're an IEN, but you're a registered nurse, and that should be your primary goal when you come to Canada. You can be a licensed practitioner nurse, a licensed practical nurse, rather, a registered nurse, or a registered psych nurse. So allow me to just share something about the bridging program. So the bridging program we have in Saskatchewan is called ONSIEN. We have a different name now, but it's essentially, it's a 4-semester program. It takes about 16 months in order for you to get all the courses online and go for lab and clinical, and then eventually you are given the eligibility to write the exam with the regulatory body. So in all, the cost for a bridging program in Saskatchewan is about 15,000 Canadian. So I have lots of students reaching out to me and say, what are the sources of funding we have out there? I always tell them, you know what, try to look for federal funding, provincial funding, scholarship from the school, or whatever funding you can have. If you can apply for a loan from the banks, or if it's a better way out there, just please go. We truly understand 15 grand is quite a humongous amount in order for you to get through your licensing process. But you know what? I'd like to say, I'd like to share with everyone. So once you have your license, the entry level pay for an RN in Saskatchewan in particular, you get to be paid about almost 40 bucks an hour. It only goes higher, and the 15 grand is your investment. So an average RN, an average year's worth of salary for an RN in Saskatchewan in particular takes you about 80 grand a year. So that's a good reason in order for you to pursue the licensing process in Canada, precisely because our investment now can really give you a better opportunity for a better life for you, not just for yourself, but your family, and even for your family back home, whatever country you come from. I think that's about the end of my presentation. And I look forward to some of your comments or questions at the end of this, before we end this webinar or session, right?
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Don. I'm just going to log back on here. Wonderful. That was really great, useful information. And I think that, speaks really well into the presentation that I'm going to get back into here about career loans. All right. So an introduction to the virtual program career loans. So we are funded by the by the federal government's Foreign Credential Recognition Program. We are coordinated by the Center for Education and Training, and our financial partner is HSBC. All right. So Career New, we launched in April of 2019, and we are completely virtual. So we are accessible anywhere at any time as long as you have an internet connection. We provide free career and financial counseling to internationally trained individuals in Alberta and Saskatchewan. And as I mentioned, we are funded by the Government of Canada's Foreign Credential Recognition Program. So eligibility criteria. So we're really looking at internationally trained individuals. So in regulated or non-regulated occupations, including nursing, doctors, if you're a marketing or HR specialist, you have to be a resident of Saskatchewan, a permanent resident, Canadian citizen or convention refugee, and have a minimum Canadian language benchmark of a level 5. Some of our program features. So free career and financial counseling. So if you don't access the loan, you still get the free career and financial counseling. It's not one or the other. You can absolutely get the free career and financial counseling without accessing the loan. Low interest loans up to $15,000. So we heard Don speak a little bit about the cost of the bridging program. And so this would cover the program. I think there were maybe some additional costs included in that. I think initially there was maybe a fee for US getting 650 US. So hopefully that $15,000 would cover all of it, but that's the max of the loans. Minimum, I believe, is $1,500. We do referrals to local employment services. We are not an employment service provider, but we also provide support if you are needing services like support in language, employment, anything else like that. Alternative career advice. So if you are coming to Saskatchewan and you are in the health, maybe you want to, move forward in becoming a nursing, maybe you're wanting to know what else is available in the health sector. Our team, Claudia Valenzuela, who is our information and career counselor, can help you figure out what path you would like to go down. Of course, a guide to the accreditation process, so you are not alone in figuring that out, and the support of our caring and trusted team. So our goal is really to empower internationally trained individuals in Alberta and Saskatchewan to continue their chosen career path. Don spoke a little bit about coming here and having multiple jobs. And really what we want to do is support individuals so that they're not staying in those quote unquote survivor jobs, but instead are moving forward in the careers that they began in their home countries. And we do that through individualized counseling, of course, access to educational loans, and ongoing support throughout the whole program. We know that one size does not fit all when it comes to career planning and career advice. So success is going to look different for all of our clients, but we know that our community and economy is stronger and happy with, or stronger with happy and healthy individuals and families. Some program benefits. So like I said, our virtual program is accessible anywhere at any time. Personalized career and financial counseling, one-on-one counseling with Claudia. Our low interest rates are prime plus 2%. I just checked online this morning, and prime is 2.45. So we're looking at an interest rate of 4.45, and that's locked in. So once you take the loan, that interest rate does not vary. It's fixed throughout the 4 years. These loans are available to those who have been denied traditional bank loans. I know for individuals new to Canada, I think there's about a year in which you don't have access to bank loans and maybe even credit cards. And so, we look at our clients very differently than a bank would. And so HSBC puts on a completely different hat when they're looking at our clients as opposed to if you were to apply for just a regular bank loan. Our loan repayment period is up to 4 years, and you have continued support throughout that program. We're cheerleading you on along the whole entire way. Referrals and access to local service providers for extended services. So like I said, if you're needing some support with employment or language services, we would certainly redirect you. And alternative career advice and planning. The application process is very simple. You just visit our website, www.careerloans.ca. Claudia will do a one-on-one assessment with you. She'll send you your login credentials and ask you to send her any information she might need, training, educational records, training records, proof of residency, and immigration status. Some eligible expenses. So like Don gave a bit of a breakdown previously in what to expect. We would cover the credential assessment and accreditation costs, exam fees, the bridge training at a local college or university, any sort of materials, licensure fees, membership association fees, union fees. If there is something on here that you are curious about, please just send us a message and we can certainly inquire to see if those costs would be included in the expenses. So some member benefits, if you were to apply right after you got off of this webinar, you would have access to a ton of information, past webinars, you'd get invites to live sessions with guest speakers, tons of industry information, assessment tools, and of course access to our career and financial counselors. Community collaborations are extremely important to us. Before COVID hit, I was traveling all across the province, making connections with educational institutes, regulatory bodies, and settlement organizations. We are absolutely, invested in providing relevant information and having speakers like Don come on and into his lived experience as well as the process for nurses. And our partners and collaborators, of course, Government Center for Education and Training, HSBC, the Government of Saskatchewan, Saskatoon Open Door Society, and Truly Alive. We also have our contact information there, but we will show the contact information for Career Loans and Dawn at the end of the presentation. So I'll open the floor up to questions and see if you guys have any questions for Dawn or for myself. I'm just going to take myself off the share screen here. I see a few. Very informative. Dawn, I believe this one is for you. Is there a possibility one can proceed to taking the NCLEX or registering a license and not taking the ONCIEN program after the SEC?
Thank you for that question, Candice, and thank you for that question. Is there a possibility you can go straight to write your NCLEX even without doing the bridging program? The answer is yes. So it depends upon the NNAS and the regulatory body's assessment of your documents and competencies. If they have determined that you're just good to go and your practice is current and you met everything, all the requirements they have, yes. Like my wife, she didn't have to do the bridging program. She was sent straight to write the NCLEX. She was sent to say, okay, you don't need that. Yes, but if you'd ask me, a lot of the IENs, internationally educated nurses, go through the bridging program, go through the credentialing process, and there is a very maybe insignificant number of IEN that go straight to write their exams right away.
Okay. Next question. If anyone already has a nursing license, is an RN from Saskatchewan, and after some time they move to BC, in that case, would this person need to get a license again from BC?
Good question. Actually, some of the IENs, RNs now, they move out to BC or Alberta. You need to apply for a license in BC. There's such a thing as portability now across Canada. You don't have to write the exam, the NCLEX again. You only need to apply with the provincial regulatory body in BC or whichever province you want to go. It would take about a couple of weeks and you will get your BC from that province, as long as you meet all the practice hours that they require. So you need to practice at probably about 10 months a year in order for you to be eligible to practice with another jurisdiction.
Okay, awesome. We've got quite a few questions coming in. I would like to know where in Alberta we have a bridging program, if you would know that.
Yes, in Alberta, it's offered through Mount Royal University.
Okay.
And prior to that, I believe some of the programs are actually being offered through the Bow Valley University.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure, I'm certain Mount Royal University is the one providing bridging program.
Okay. This question says, is there any possibility to start the process before the nurse has landed in Canada? I would say if the person is in the process of immigration application, would you have any sort of understanding if that person, knowing that they're coming to Canada, if they would be able to start that process early?
Okay, let me go to that. Is there any possibility to start the process before the nurse? Yes, definitely. You can start the process wherever you are, but if they would require you to go through the credentialing process and you need to be on campus or whichever office, that you need to be in Canada and you need to be a permanent resident at least. You can't come here as a visitor, and you can come here to get your assessment process with a visitor's visa. Strictly permanent residency, or if you're already a Canadian citizen.
Okay. What are the 2 documents that we are required to send to NNAS?
Yes, first is, there were actually not just a couple of documents. It will require a few other documents. You have to send some form to your regulatory body back in your home country, your nursing school, and your employer. And on top of that, you need to send them your current English language requirement for at least 4 documents.
Okay. This is coming from an individual, and they say, I am an IEN currently practicing as an LPN in the health region. I am also an NCLEX RN passer. I'm on the stage of taking OSCE, but I'm nervous, confused about the exam, and can't access the video series that is posted on the IEN Assessment Center to have a glimpse of the exam. My question, depending on performance, is there a possibility one can proceed? Okay, proceed taking
this has
the
been
NCLEX.
answered, yeah.
Okay, okay. That one.
But I'd like to address that, Candice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's scheduled to do an assessment with us in the next couple of months, and I think she's going through the process, and I'm gonna address that to her personally. But there are other sorts of videos in order for you to get yourself ready. I'd like you to consider looking at the videos from the BCCNP, provincial regulatory body. They have some videos. I'm gonna post it. I'm gonna email it, and then there are actually videos in YouTube. You just type practicing nurse, safe practice safe nursing practice in Canada, and you will see what the typical nursing practice in Canada that actually that meets entry-level competencies.
Another question here. I have one more question regarding language. IELTS score 7 is required at the time of admission only. Once I get admission, then it doesn't matter if IELTS get expired across the 2 years. I don't know if I read that properly, but
the thing about IELTS scores, it varies across the province, but it's mostly they have like a passing band score. So once you get into, if you have a current IELTS exam and then you get to apply through NNAS and then you get it through the regulatory body, most regulatory bodies would require that 2 years, the whole process from step 1 to your last step should be done in 2 years. If that lapses, you need to rewrite the exam. No, it doesn't matter. You need to rewrite the exam and make it current in order for you to get your actual nursing license.
okay. Another individual is just wanting to know if your slides will be available to participants. And one of the ways we could do that is, I know that we have access to their emails. You could always send it to us, and I might be speaking.
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah. I will make it make it available.
Okay.
It's not personal on it. This information all over the web, and then they just put it together in some slides. So this is not a personal information. These are all public information out there. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Is there another pathway that does not involve going through an NAS?
Unfortunately, I am not aware of any pathway other than the NNAS, especially if you are an internationally educated nurse. Yeah.
Okay. I think we might have gone through all of the questions here. Let me just do another scroll through. I think that's it. I do want to, I'm just going to share my screen really quickly. If individuals want to get a hold of John, I have his information if you want to jot it down quickly. Sorry, I'm going to come back to the slide. So contact Don. His information is on the SAS Polytechnic website. However, feel free to jot it down right now. If you want to get a hold of career loans, our information is on there as well. Please feel free to visit our website, www.careerloans.ca. I also just want to quickly talk about some upcoming industry webinars we have going on in October. SAS Trucking, a panel discussion with Jordan Ewart from the Saskatchewan Trucking Association and Gamber Brar from the Capilino Trucking Driver Training Institute. I am online every Thursday talking about career loans. The Eventbrite link is there if you would like to connect with me. In November and December, we have technology and goal setting. And I think that is it. Of course, please take our survey. We always want to make sure that we're offering useful information and valuable content to you guys. So please have a peek at that. I'm just going to check. I see we might have more comments here in the chat. Okay. I think that's it. So I'm going to thank you once again, Don, so much for coming on and sharing all that information. It was useful, and we will make sure anyone who wants those slides and that information that they will have access to it. But that is all from us today. So thank you very much for joining us. If anyone has any questions or concerns, you can feel free to reach out to us. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Pleasure.
All right. Thanks, Don. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us.